for Mars, Venus is better at the service desk. Why? Many men believe they're born with car chromosomes or fix-it genes. They tend to tell service managers what's wrong. Trouble is, premature diagnosis could be faulty and expensive. But women relate what their cars do that they don't like. Women talk about symptoms like strange noises or sensations. Keep up the good work, ladies. Advice for Mars and Venus? Don't stop with descriptions. Take your technician for a spin. Let them see and feel what you're talking about. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Boy Scouts learn it to earn their Eagle badges. And if you know it, you may save a few Eagles of your own on dollar bills. Be prepared. When I come back, I'll tell you.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Being prepared helps save two rare species, money and life. Every year, 1 in 11 Americans is involved in an accident. So listen up. Carry a jack, spare tire, jumper cables, and learn how to use them. Know what's in your insurance policy and who to call. Keep a card listing medical conditions and allergies. Invest in a cell phone. 911 services could be the stitch in time that saves 9 lives, that is. Go ahead, make your Scoutmaster proud. Earn your merit badge as a highway hero. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. Yesterday, we checked out J-Lo's Bentley during our tour of famous four-wheelers. Today, we'll cross the pond to see which machine suits the material girl when I come back.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Madonna's known for her change of style. So when not touring London in her more conservative convertible Mini Cooper, she drives a pedal-to-the-metal Maybach by Mercedes. Produced in Germany, this ultra-luxury car is built in 4 months to customer specs. It comes standard with a 543 horsepower V12 engine, a refrigerator, pulsating hand-fitted leather seats, a 21-speaker audio system, and DVD player with twin monitors. A panoramic glass roof can be set from opaque to transparent, so Ms. Ritchie can enjoy the London skyline. So what's the charge on Guy's credit card? A whopping $400,000. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. You can't transform a sow's ear into a silk purse, but designers can convert mules into automotive thoroughbreds. The question is, can the mules keep pace with technology? The answer, when I come back.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Automotive mules are life-size physical prototypes that manufacturers have traditionally configured, built, and tweaked before production models are released. But wait, the whip of technology may put the mules out to pasture before they reach the starting gate. Since a single mule prototype can cost up to $500,000, and as many as 60 mules can be produced for a single model, it makes more than horse sense that today's digital engineers are now harnessing the power of supercomputers to simulate safety, drivability, and aesthetics, the triple crown of automotive design. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Making it to work on time may be hard, but the journey itself doesn't have to be. When I come back, I'll provide some commuting comforts that'll make your 5 o'clock horses easier to ride.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly
Auto Parts. So what creature comforts do commuters crave in their automotive beast of burden? Per Edmunds.com, comfortable seats and well-designed cup holders make the ride in the saddle physically cozy, while in-dash CD players and wheel-mounted radio controls allow ample entertainment with minimal hassle. In-console PowerPoints and hands-free voice-activated phone systems make it easy for office-bound pilgrims to do a little business before they arrive. And since feeding the horses under your hood can take the gold right out of your saddlebags, good gas mileage can really make a difference between an old gray mare and a red-hot pony. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, welcome to this program. I hope you're doing well this morning. This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and I'm your host. I'm sitting in today for me. I don't know where that came from. Oh, well, hey, let's have some fun today. Let's talk about cars. And also, I found some very interesting information. If you remember, I don't know, Fabio, it's been a few weeks or so. We had a gentleman here we interviewed from, let's see what the name of his company was. It was Driver's Ed. Yeah, you remember Driver's Ed? And I'll dig his name up in a short. But he published a very interesting article versus buying versus leasing a car. So I thought I'd share some of that information with you folks today. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by the Car Care Council. If you're traveling this winter, remember to follow the 3 P's of car care: prepare, prevent, and plan. You can save money and, even better yet, avoid breakdowns. That is, when I see a car on the side of the road broken down, I can't help but cringe at what those folks have to go through, but you don't necessarily have to put yourself in that position. You can learn more about car care at carcare.org. That's easy enough. Carcare.org. Your calls at 888-227-2546. Miss Hannah will take your call when I come back. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element Ultrastat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The Ultrastat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The Ultrastat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad Ultrastat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Cooling systems take a beating when it gets cold. We recently had a customer come in with a 3.5 Chrysler engine with a cracked head. Parts and labor totaled just under $3,000. We suggested K-Seal, and it worked. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. It's a simple pour-in solution added directly to the radiator when cool. You then run the engine till the leak is stopped. K-Seal isn't just any stop leak. It's a certified leak repair and preventative formula designed and tested to stop cooling system leaks. K-Seal features a ceramic technology which makes it non-clogging but highly effective. Engine temps range from -20 to 220 above in just minutes. It's during these times that cracked blocks and heads fail. We've had customers who were ready to scrap their vehicles, then tried K-Seal and were able to continue driving their automobiles. Log on to K-Seal for more information, including videos and the many different applications. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. That's kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's broadcast. Thank you. And for those of you who are tuned in at Watch Bobby Live, I'll wave at you. And for those of you who may be traveling away from your station, we had a gentleman to call from or send an email this week from the Washington area that said, Bobby, I listened to your broadcast in Moses Lake, Washington, but I'm traveling on the road and wanted a list of our stations. And of course, the stations that air Bobby Likis Car Clinic are our own information, and for years we published that information online. We actually, through directions from our national syndicator, this is several years ago, many years ago, said not to publish, because what happens is other car shows then follow you and come in and try to take your position there. Quite candidly, I wish them luck, because to take a position means that they being a host of another car show, would have to be as familiar with older vehicles as they are with newer vehicles. And that's a real challenge. I know it to be a challenge because I've been in the automotive service business for 47 years, hosted Bobby Likis Car Clinic here for 27 years. Yeah, 27 and 47, wow. So the real challenge is, number one, knowing what information that you'd like for me to share with you. And that's always a challenge for anyone and everyone that's hosting a Car Talk program. But I let you decide that, because I invite you to participate. And if you have a question, or if you have maybe a car that's in a shop and you're sort of at a quandary of where you should keep the car and or spend money on it, or bite a bigger bullet and trade it in. And then if you do you buy a used, newer car, or do you buy a new car, or do you lease a car? And as I said at the open of the show, I have some information here from Driver's Ed, which is a great website, driversed.com, that gives a lot of information, but it's leasing versus buying a car. So I'll go through some of that information. I wonder how many of you out there have actually done both. I have. I have leased a car twice in my life, and two different makes of automobiles. And gosh, now that I think of it, I leased an SC400 Lexus in '94, and I made the statement that I don't drive a Toyota, never owned one, but I never did own it. And that's what you do when you lease. You don't own the vehicle, you don't build any equity, but there are certain advantages and disadvantages, and I'll share that with you a bit later in the program. So getting back to the hosting of the program, I can answer your questions and I can give you information that will not fix your car. I'm not here to repair your car, because you can't do that long distance. I mean, it's tough enough to do it hands-on, especially with the vehicles today and the complexity of the vehicles. And that's even as we speak, the complexity of the vehicles is continuing to escalate. And we're going to see self-driving cars, which are already being tested on the road, millions of miles. And if you've ever driven a vehicle that has its own steering and has its own control of the throttle and the brake. Now, I've never driven a car that had its own control of steering, but I have driven a car that had acceleration and deacceleration and following along behind the car that were controlled. A K900, a 2015 model. I was most impressed with that automobile. And of course, that's a K900. It's a Kia K900. Also, a Hyundai. By the way, Hyundai owns 48% of Kia. So Hyundai, Kia, it's a big operation. And Hyundai also makes their own steel. They own and operate a steel plant. So when they need steel, they don't buy it from U.S. Steel. They make their own. And to that end, that's a huge business. And when that company first came on the scene in the U.S. scene, of course, I'm speaking to, we sort of scoffed at them. I say we in the automotive service industry, because we see what happens to cars, after they run out of the warranty. And so Kia said, well, we'll put a stop to this. And I'm not saying it's because that we in the service industry said, don't buy a Kia, although the earlier models had timing chain issues and balance shaft issues. And a balance shaft, folks, is an out of balance weight that spins with the engine that opposes the out of balance of the crankshaft. And when you put two out of balances opposing, you get a balance. I mean, it's like a heavy, think about it like a dynamic balance on a tire. You got a heavy spot on the tire, and every time the heavy spot rolls, it wants to come up off the ground because the centrifugal weight of that heavy area of that tire. So how do you balance a tire? Well, you add lead weights. I mean, it's that simple. How do you balance an engine? Well, you drill holes in the counterweights to offset the out of balance condition, or you add special heavier metals if you've got like a racing stroker engine or something, which that's another technical part of automotive, not repair, but of building engines, which I have. I built Hemi racing engines for rear engine dragsters, and loved that experience. Learned a lot. I learned what I didn't know, and I learned that I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot, but it was my nickel, and then, well, what I wish it had been my nickel. It was my thousands of dollars that I broke, and whenever you're building a racing engine, you stretch that engine and you make it do things that it was not necessarily designed to do, and then whatever the weak point is, it breaks. And so you go back in there and you determine what caused it to break, and you fix that part, and then that elevates the power and the torque until something else breaks, and then it's a continuous round robin: break, fix, break, fix, break, fix, break, fix. Next thing you know, you've got a racing engine that really produces a lot of power and has it lives. I asked a friend of mine, Dr. Randolph, Andy Randolph, who is the director of engine architecture in the Chevrolet division that's the only division there is, really, Chevrolet, for Earnhardt Childress Racing. And he said, Bobby, he said, if we could go 501 miles on our engine, we're successful. And I said, well, what about a 600-mile race? Oh, he said, that's a different animal. We're not as aggressive with a 600, like the Coke 600 in Charlotte. We're not as aggressive with that engine as we are with a Daytona 500 engine. And obviously they would be even more aggressive if there were a 250 race, because, if you can make an engine run, and just you think about us running as human beings. You run fast and then you exercise, and pretty soon you have to open your mouth because you can't get enough airway through your nose. Same thing for an engine. The more air you get in, the more power you can make in a given period of time. And that given period of time is on one revolution of the engine, multiplied times 9,000. But the bottom line, engines and manufacturers of today build engines with a tremendous amount of power, and it's a horsepower to weight factor, and that horsepower to weight factor is really magnified by turbochargers. Turbochargers, what do? They just blow air into the engine. So rather than the engine taking a breath and whatever atmospheric pressure when your lungs, when your diaphragm goes down and you breathe, you're actually not creating a vacuum. You're just creating a low pressure, and the atmospheric pressure around you rushes in to fill that void. That's what breathing is. Same thing's true when a piston travels downward in a cylinder. It creates a low pressure, and atmospheric pressure finds its way and pushes its way into that void. But that's limit. In other words, if you're along the coast, then your atmospheric pressure is higher than if you're in Mile High City, Denver, so you're 5,000 feet up. The higher you go, the less atmospheric pressure there is. So, having said that, and that means that less horsepower. So a 300 horsepower engine along the coast of Florida would probably make 275 in Denver. And to that end, in drag racing, if the record is, say, 10 seconds flat for a quarter of a mile run, that same car that set that record when that car is in Denver, if that car ran like a 10th of a second slower, it would still be running on its record because of the difference in the. Now, so how do you make up for that difference? Well, you blow air into it. You create your own atmospheric pressure, and that's what turbochargers and superchargers do. Hey, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I think it is. I'm going to open the phone banks up and invite you to call 888-227-2546. And when I come back, I'm going to share with you information about leasing versus buying. And I want to give a special shout out to Clinton and Candace in Daytona Beach for this past holiday Jolly Joys of Christmas. This card, a couple of fine-looking people there. And then your calls when I come back. Heated seats, backup cameras, and start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's cars. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. Short-distance driving means your battery is not fully recharging. AGM batteries are more efficient than traditional flooded batteries when partially charged. They consume less power from the alternator. AGM, the better battery for today's vehicles. Learn more AGM advantages at autobatteries.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The months between October and February top the list for accidents, damage, and injuries. And while safety technology on today's vehicles is great, it's no match for Mother Nature. CarStar is the authority on winter driving accidents, repairing thousands of vehicles each year damaged in snowy, icy conditions. Here are a few winter driving tips courtesy of CarStar. Check visibility. Add de-icer to your windshield washer fluid. Make sure your wipers are free of ice and all mirrors are clear, and check vehicle lighting. Slow down and stay back. Drop your speed to a safe limit and leave extra distance between your vehicle and the one in front of you. And if your rear wheels skid, take your foot off the accelerator and steer in the direction you want your front wheels to go. If your front wheels skid, take your foot off the gas and shift to neutral. As you skid sideways, the vehicle will slow and traction will return. Find more safety tips at carstar.com. At CarStar, they don't just repair cars, they repair your car.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic from 10 till noon every Saturday for 27 years, actually. Well, we weren't always on for 2 hours. We initially started with 1 hour and on 4 stations, and then we ultimately migrated to and opened up 2 hours because we had a lot of West Coast stations, and we were self-syndicating, which is impossible. We didn't know that at the time, so we self-syndicated. But it's a funny thing that, if you don't know what you can't do, you can do it. And some people call that persistence, and some people call it other names, but it definitely works. And we built our stations, 100 and, at one time 38 stations nationwide. And then we got to the point to where one station didn't want me talking about the fact that we were on 2 hours because they only carried 1 hour. Well, the bottom line, we do provide 2 hours of live car talk call-in programs every Saturday, so that a station on the East Coast at 10 o'clock would be a little bit early. That'd be 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on the West Coast. So it's a little bit early for folks to get up. Not everyone, but anyway, we're here every Saturday, and I can help you save money by keeping your car in your garage. But make no mistake about it, you should plan on an inspection for your car twice a year. And when I say inspection, that inspection should be a complete inspection, bumper to bumper. And we talk about this with our partners, the Car Care Council, because they have online, and I share that with you. I've shared it with you many times, carcare.org. You go to that site and you can put in your VIN, and you can put in, or not, there's tons of free information and videos and a booklet on a car care guide that I found to be most informative. It's an 80-page, and what I really liked about the Car Care Council is you can order the guide and for your glove box, which is a perfect thing to have in every car. It really is, because you can refer to it. If you're driving down the road, or you have loved ones or friends in the car and you're on a trip, it's great reading because it helps you to familiarize yourself with the nature of the beast that you drive. And you say, well, what do I need to know? Air in the tires and gas in the tank, right? Well, yeah, until something goes wrong, and then that's when, I better call Bobby, or I better look in the book here. And how do I do this? I mean, how many of you out there have actually read the owner's manual, page cover to cover? In fact, fast forward to today's owner's manual, and I want to share with you something that I think is so absolutely state of the art. But before, and it's about the new Genesis, by the way. And people have called me and asked me what I think about the Genesis. And that was, Hyundai came out with their Genesis line. And it was the first, low-budget luxury car. And as I remember, it was in the mid-30s or under, 33.5 or 32.5, I'm not sure of the number, but it was in the mid-30s, just under the mid-30s for a luxury car. Well, that's impossible. Well, it wasn't. Genesis was a beautiful car, and they really were well made. I know the first one we ever serviced had 7,000 miles, and the owner brought it to us for service, and actually it was to be serviced free by the dealer, but he had been a customer of ours with his older car, and we had a great rapport, and he trusted us, and he wanted to show me the new car. So he came in for servicing on that car, and we changed the oil and filter, of course, and did our digital inspection. But while it was in the air on the rack, I looked under it, and I was never so impressed with the number of shields that I saw shielding the bottom of the car from road debris and noise, and catalytic converter heat from the car. Layered between the converters and the car. It was really quite well made. And to that end, the transmission, where it normally, normally transmissions just plug into and bolt onto the back of an engine. But in race cars and like Formula Ones, the transmission is part of the frame. Well, in the Genesis, the transmission extended its lower extremities. Well, normally they're flat, and then there's a round, what's called bell housing. Well, it was triangulated so was the block, so that when you bolt the transmission and the engine together, there's structural rigidity there. And that was one of the first things that I really noticed that was a little different from a standard plug-and-play transmission with a regular application of any automobile, for that matter. So that was done to provide a lighter weight aluminum transmission and engine automobile, and also give you the rigidity so that you have you say, well, I don't want my car to be rigid. Well, folks, you have to have, the more rigid you make the frame, the more soft you can can have the ride because the frame doesn't flex and the car stays in alignment and tires stay on the road and balance and all that. So the bottom line, fast forward to the new Genesis, and I will share with you that in a minute. But I want to share with you now buying versus leasing a car and what you should know. And if you have any questions afterwards, I'll give you my experiences. Be glad to share my experiences financially with you with regard to leasing versus buying a car. But if you're weighing the pros and cons of buying versus leasing, here's, and this is according to Driver's Ed, and I totally agree with this information. When you buy a vehicle, you either pay the full price in cash at the time of purchase, or you get a loan from a private bank or a private party or the car dealer for the purchase price minus any down payment. And you pay the loan back plus interest in monthly installments over, usually 3 to 8 years. Well, that's a no-brainer. You already know that. But if you get a loan, you're often required to make the cash down payment of approximately 10% of the vehicle price. Then the lender can hold the vehicle title until the loan's paid off and you become the owner, free and clear. So here's the advantages of buying a car. You can make changes to the vehicle. You say, well, I bought a new car. I don't want to make changes. Well, you might want to put in a custom sound system, or you might want to put custom wheels on it, or you might want to do things to it, or at least have the freedom to do whatever to personalize that vehicle. Then you can sell the car for cash whenever you're ready. I mean, it's yours. You can sell it down. Now, if you have a loan, you have to pay the loan off. But hopefully you're not upside down in the car, as they say. You owe less than what the car is worth. And you can drive unlimited miles. And then you can even refinance the car if you find a lower interest rate. So getting a loan to buy a car is also easier than qualifying for a lease. Now, I didn't know that. I thought if you qualified for a loan, you could always qualify for a lease. And I dare say that I don't know if any dealers, well, I wouldn't know, would I, that turned down folks that leasing a car. No, I would have no way of knowing. But for me, it was not a factor of credit because I have good credit. The disadvantages of buying a car. Well, you often pay a higher sales tax than with the lease. Well, that's true, but let me explain. When you lease a car, well, we'll get into leasing in just a minute, but as far as this one line here, it says you often pay a higher sales tax than with a lease. Yeah, because you pay all the sales tax up front. When you lease a car, you pay that monthly use of that car, and you pay the sales tax on that monthly use. So you don't up front pay the lease, the sales tax on a car. I mean, ultimately, when the car is turned back in and it's sold, somebody pays sales tax on the car. So sales tax is always paid by the percentage of your particular state. Also, when you're disadvantages of buying a car, you're solely responsible for the maintenance. Let me repeat that. You're solely responsible for the maintenance. So yesterday, a gentleman came in for an inspection and oil change for his car, and this is the second time he had been to our establishment. And I said, well, who does the service on this car? Well, I said, you're changing. I said, no, but who does the maintenance on this car? Not the oil and filter changes, which that's our second one to do on this car. And he had this deer, and I swear, folks, he had this deer in the headlight look. And I said to him, well, you're a bad car owner. And he looked at me like, what have you. Then he kind of smiled and said, like he admitted he was a bad car owner. What's a bad car owner? Well, if you think that you just put gas in the car and turn the key and put air in the tires and that's it. Oh, and by the way, you change the oil and filter every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, you're a bad car owner. And so I reminded him, and the reason that I bring this up is because the car that he was driving has known issues. Maybe not his specific car, but it has known issues. So for a car owner to drive a car with 80,000 miles and have no service records other than changing the oil and filter tells me that that owner is either not educated to the repair and maintenance of automobiles. Well, forget the repair, the maintenance of automobiles. I mean, you brush your teeth, twice a day, right? but every 6 months you need a professional cleaning. Same thing's true for a car. You know, you change the oil and filter every 6 months, or depending on miles, once a year even. With synthetic oil and you drive short distances, you can go a year. You shouldn't, but you can. But at one point in time, that will catch up to you. One more disadvantage of buying a car, it requires more money up front. So when you lease a car, that's a whole different ball game. So is it better to lease a car or to buy a car? When I come back, I'll share the other side of the story with you with regard to leasing an automobile. In the meantime, you should think about where you are with your ownership of the car that you have. Think about the miles that you have on your car. Let's say that you have a car that is a 3-year-old car. It has 30 to 50,000 miles on it, somewhere in that range. Probably if you got a 3-year-old car, you're going to have right at 40,000 miles on that automobile. That you'd be about average. And if that's the case, at different intervals of mileage and age, automobiles, due to age or mileage, but mostly due to age, will have deteriorated. And there are parts of that car that will need to be replaced. As I've said many times on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, when you drive the new off an automobile, you must replace the new along the way, or otherwise you'll get to a point in time where you've driven all the new out of the car. You've used it up, and that's what we call a throwaway car, except that they're too expensive these days to throw away, and that's totally unnecessary. I'll take your calls at 888-227-2546 when I come back. We recently sat down with Kate Searlick, Global Product Management Lead with Johnson Controls. Kate talked about the advantages of AGM batteries, noting they outperform traditional flooded batteries when partially charged, a key benefit if your normal driving consists of shorter trips. Let's hear from Kate.
Today's charging systems are not negatively affected by installing an AGM battery, and no modifications are needed for the alternator or the charging system. In fact, an AGM battery actually performs better when partially charged than a standard flooded battery. This means if you're not driving long enough distances to fully charge the battery, an AGM battery more efficiently performs and not consume additional power from the alternator. We were able to validate this in fleet testing we conducted in Las Vegas, where we witnessed AGM batteries providing up to twice the service life of a standard flooded battery.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I hope you're having a great morning. We'll invite you to participate. 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call and put you in a queue. And I will put you on the air at 888-227-2546. So we're talking about leasing and versus buying, or leasing and buying, your choice. When you lease a car, you never become the owner of the vehicle. You simply have the right to use the car with limitations for a period of time, after which you can renew the lease on the same vehicle or turn it in for a newer model. I did that. I bought, and I had a reason to do that, which I'll share with you next. But during the lease, you pay a monthly amount equal to the estimated depreciation value of the vehicle plus interest, and sometimes other fees. Leases also have down payments, but they're usually lower than the down payment required for buying a car. Unlike with a car loan, you should pay as little down as possible with a lease, since you never build equity in a lease deal. In other words, only pay the minimum required amount up front. Also, it's best to lease new vehicles only for a term that doesn't extend beyond the warranty period. Well, I think that's a no-brainer. Why would you lease a car? You want to lease a car, and, well, what are the advantages of leasing a car? Lower monthly payments, making it possible to drive a higher-priced, newer car. I'm not so sure that's altogether correct, but I guess that it is. No maintenance cost. The dealership and auto manufacturer usually cover these costs. Easy trade-in. Well, sure, as long as you have the credit, you can trade in your lease car at the close of the deal and pop a new one and open a new lease up. Reduced sales tax. In many locations, sales tax is lower for leased cars. Now, I didn't know that, but I do know this. When you buy a new car, even when you finance it, all of the sales tax is paid. That car is paid. The dealer is paid off by the loan institution, whether it's a bank or a Ford Motor Credit or GMAC, you name or a credit union. So you get the loan, and then they pay the dealer off. The dealer gets his money. The state also gets their sales tax up front. So let's say something is $30,000 in the state of Florida. That's 7.5%. So that's $22.50. So that's $321. Yeah, $2,300 almost. So there's all that money goes to the state. In a lease, if it was a 3-year lease, and your note was say $700 a month, which included the sales tax on that use of that car, use tax. That's what it is. A sales tax. So that $700 a month would include some of the money that would go to the state, and the state would receive that money monthly. That's what leases do. So to that end, the sales tax is always paid. Disadvantages of leasing. Well, let's look at that. Restrictions on mileage. When I leased my car, I said I would drive 10,000 miles, and I did to the T. It just that just fit me perfectly. It did in 2013 when I leased my new car, and it still fits me today when I have since purchased that lease. I bought it. That's another story I'll share with you in a minute. You cannot make changes to the vehicle, so if you lease a car, it stays as put. It's extra cost for gap insurance and fees at the end of the lease for extra mileage, damage, and other expenses, which can be costly, and you have to have excellent credit needed to qualify. Ultimately, the deciding factor in buying versus leasing a car depend on personal preference and credit standing. So, why did I lease a car? Well, number one, it was a Jaguar, and given the history of maintenance requirements and repairs, mostly repairs on Jaguar, I really didn't want to drive a car and have to be concerned with repairing the automobile. Maintenance, not an issue. I mean, I'm in the business. I know the value of maintaining an automobile, and I know how to do that, and so does my team. But that doesn't ensure that the car's not going to have breakdowns. And in fact, my car, when it was under warranty, had a fuel gauge that went out, which turned into a nightmare. But it did. It was a fuel gauge that went out, and the replacement didn't work correctly, and it took a while to get that fixed. It also had a couple of other issues that I've since forgotten. But the bottom line is, I leased my car because, number one, it was a luxury car, and I thought that I could lease it and then keep it 3 years, turn it in, and get another one. And by that time, Jag would change the body design. And here's why I thought that. And in 2010 or 9, Ratan Tata bought Jag from Ford. Ford Motor Company ran Jag and ran that horse till it died. They did zero to little, if any, updates or upgrades on the car during their ownership. It was a terrible ownership, in my opinion, and I share with you my opinion. And so when Tata bought Jag, of course, this gentleman was a well-known billionaire, and he wrote a carte blanche check and said, okay, to the engineers, make a new car. And they did. In fact, it was so beautiful that Ian Callum, who is the engineer, the designer rather, in 2012 received the award of Designer of the Year from domestic and foreign car competition from the industry. And Ian is quite the gent. I've interviewed him before, never met the gentleman, but when he was 14, he sent Jag a letter and some of his work and said, I want to come to work there. And they said, fine, get your education and come back. And he did, and he did. And he is the de facto chief designer at Jag. So he designed the car in 2010. Fast forward here. Car design runs, on average, about 7 years, the body design. So I'm figuring 2010, 2016, well, 2009, and then 2016 would be the turning year for the XJL, or the XJ series, which is mine. Well, I also figured that in 3 years, mine was a 13, by 16, which would be the end of my lease, the technology changes, the electronics of the car would be drastically updated, because I was and still am disenchanted with the electronics, the center stack, the nav controls, terrible. The phone interface, terrible. Just to try to use that system is requires so much patience that I have road rage within my car for my electronics, seriously. I mean, when you compare to the fact that the car is not Apple Play, so you can't hook your car phone to it. If I all I would want is an umbilical cord, hook up my phone, and use my phone as part of the car. But that just can't happen with my car. Unlike the Kia, with the Kia will allow that. So fast forward, I thought by 16 I would trade my 3-year-old Jag in and turn it in and lease another one. But it's the same car. And here we are in 2019, and it's still the same car. 10 years running on the design of that car. Hey, it's drop dead gorgeous, but when are they going to make a change? Well, it's in the works now to make a change. Take a call from Montana from Ray, and then I'll share with you some other information about whether or not you should warm up your car in the cold weather. Well, that's a way over the top, misunderstood with regard to warming up an engine. But let's go to Ray. Ray in Montana. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, I have a 94 Chevy pickup. It's got a 350 V8,
right.
Throttle body, fuel injection,
right.
Automatic.
Yes.
Starts well, runs well, idles well, but at maybe 65 miles an hour, it starts to fade, and it's got a lot of miles on it. It's got 194,000 on it.
All right.
And it doesn't appear to be the fuel injectors.
When you say fade, Ray, let's say you're driving down the highway at 65, 70 miles an hour, and you're just cruising. how does it fade? Help me to understand what you mean by fade. You mean it starts to slow and you give it more throttle and it still slows?
Yeah, it hesitates to do any more, and lucky to hold its own.
Well, are you saying that if you nail the throttle at 65 miles an hour and it kicked into passing gear, it would only go 65 miles an hour?
Yeah, probably.
Well, you say probably. You really haven't tried that. So whenever I'm trying to understand. See, there are many factors that would, prevent an engine from acceleration or carrying itself well. That could be something so simple as a restricted exhaust system. So you could have a restricted muffler, and it would certainly limit the RPM of the engine. And
yeah.
So and the good news is, Ray, it's easy enough to test back pressure. Literally, all a technician has to do is remove an oxygen sensor from the exhaust and screw in a pressure gauge and check exhaust pressure. And if it exceeds 3 pounds of 3 pounds per square inch exhaust pressure, there's a problem in the exhaust system.
Yeah, okay.
So that's an easy way. And we've actually had cars that where the Y pipe, the Y pipe is where the left side of the engine and the right side on a single exhaust, you've got the left exhaust coming down in the pipe and the right exhaust coming down in its pipe, and they join together as a Y at the bottom, and that Y is a single exhaust going out the back. So a lot of times, and I doubt this to be true in your Chevrolet pickup because this is for older cars and different makes, the Y pipe is made with dual pipes. In other words, it's a dual lined pipe. So it's got one pipe inside the other. And I have seen the Y pipe interior get so hot it shrivels and collapses. And then when it does, of course you can't look at it because you look at the pipe. Oh, that's okay, it looks good. Well, yeah, that's the outside pipe. It's the liner that you can't see, and it would shrink and collapse when it got hot, and then when it cooled down, it would stay that way.
Yeah.
Or and then so I've actually disconnected a Y pipe from both sides, left and right, and drop it down, move it over, and hook it back up, and drive the car with a wide open exhaust, and prove that it was the restricted exhaust. Now that's kind of taking it to the limit, but definitely there's also an easy way, Ray, for you as an owner to check this. Just get a vacuum gauge and find a vacuum port, like your master cylinder, booster rather, and hook a vacuum gauge, and sometimes you can find an intake manifold has a vacuum port that feeds the air conditioner, the inside. So hook a vacuum gauge onto the engine, to the intake manifold, and drive the car. I mean, you can actually tape the gauge to the windshield facing you and drive the car and look at the vacuum. And if that engine won't hold above 12 to 13 inches of vacuum cruising, then it's running on low power. Idling, it should run 17 to 18, 20 inches of vacuum, probably 17 to 18 inches of vacuum. Montana, I don't know what your altitude is there. What's the altitude in Montana?
Oh, where I'm at, it's around 4,000.
Well, then it's important that you check vacuum, because an engine's an air pump. So whatever it can't get out, let's say the exhaust was restricted, it couldn't get in. So you could take a healthy car with nothing wrong with it and shove a raw potato up the tailpipe, and that engine would not run. It would crank and go dead. Because the minute it started to try to exhaust, we couldn't get the air out. So restricted. So I doubt that's your problem. A lot of folks would say, well, maybe you've got a timing chain issue. Well, so what? So the timing chain's 10, 12 degrees slack. That's right before, maybe slipping. That still wouldn't prohibit the car from running 100 miles an hour. I mean, it's a 350 Chevrolet pickup. I mean, so you could have a fuel restriction, but you could also test a lot of these things that I'm talking about by by putting the car in second gear and going 50 miles an hour in second gear, which is equivalent to going 65 miles an hour in the final drive, in the top gear.
Yeah.
So and also what you might try, and I do this often just as an exercise for my engine, is when you enter an on-ramp to the interstate, and of course the engine's up to operating temperature, there are no cars in front of you, you nail the throttle and let your vehicle kick itself down into first gear. Just say you're running 25 miles an hour and you just nail the throttle. It'll kick down into as low a gear as its design will allow, and hold the throttle. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that'll hurt the engine." You cannot hurt the engine. It is governed and RPM limited by the onboard computer, even your 94. Well, I'm not sure 94 is not, but the bottom line is you can't hurt the engine because it'll upshift when it reaches a certain RPM automatically because it's automatic transmission. And this will give you an idea of its raceability. And if it can drag race, it can certainly run 65 miles an hour. So that's what I would try. Hey, thanks for your call from Montana. That's all the time that we have today, folks, for this hour. But remember, the second hour is coming up, and I'm going to share with you no need to warm up your engine. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you're going to love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Winter is an especially important time to be car care aware. Here are a few suggestions courtesy of the Car Care Council. Days are shorter, so make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly. Best way to warm your engine? Drive gently at the start. Double check your emergency kit, and don't forget your ice scraper and snow brush. For more great tips, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order your free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box. That's carcare.org. Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, carburetors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. According to Berlin, I bought my first can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool at 16, and 7 years later, the car runs just like a champ. My husband and I agree that Berryman's HEST technology is the difference. Learn more about Berryman's B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the cultivated section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the cultivated section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Gluck sedan with like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Also, the 888 number is open for your ease of call and memory. 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. A couple of weeks ago, I decided to give away, rather than just sit on them, well, I don't mean literally, some knives that O'Reilly Auto Parts had given us for the holiday. And I couldn't believe that, I said, okay, I'm going to give away a knife. And the phones lit up, and it was just like we only had 6 lines, and they were jammed full. Reminded me of when you go to a parade, and hey, I'm guilty of this too, from both sides of the coin. If you're on the side of the road or side of the street watching a parade and they're throwing beads, you put your hand up, hey, you wave, and like, I want some of those beads. I don't know why. Those beads are useless, but they sure are fun to catch, and that's just part of the ceremony. And if you're riding in on a float, I've done that, and you're throwing beads, it's fun to try to pick out somebody in the crowd and toss beads their way. You find out how just poor or how tough it is for a baseball player, a pitcher, to hit that strike zone when you try to throw beads. I mean, it's really funny. Okay, your calls when I come back. 888-227-2546. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, we had an F-150 in with 125,000 miles and extreme brake noise. Our inspection determined it needed new pads, rotors, and one wheel bearing. So we reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered the Brake Best pads and the Brake Best Select rotors. We chose the Brake Best Select rotors because they're factory painted, which stops the normal rust and corrosion seen on rotor hardware. During the brake job, we made sure to treat the caliper slides with Seal Glide so the calipers move freely, pads wear evenly, and the brake pedal has that firm feel. Disc brakes can feel a bit spongy when the caliper has any corrosion or rust buildup. Bottom line, new brakes should work just like the vehicle's brakes did when it came off the showroom floor. This F-150's owner was happy to have his truck back, roadworthy and on time. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor, plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back. I'm Bobby Likis. 888 Car Clinic is the number to call. 888-227-2546. Take a trip to Nebraska. Ed, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You're on the air.
Morning, Bobby. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I've got a 2001 Lincoln Town car. It's got about 300,000 miles on it.
Wow.
And probably the most trouble-free car I've ever owned in my life. But nonetheless, I drove it about 60 miles the other day and shut it off for, 15, 20 minutes and came back and turned the ignition switch on, and the engine cranked over fine, and it caught and just sputtered and ran at a very, very low RPM and quit. And I did that again, shut the switch back off and restarted it. Did the same thing the second time. The third time I did it, the engine caught and ran perfectly normal, and I drove it all the way back home, 60 miles, with no issues. There was no check engine light that came on.
It sounds to me like, of course, it wasn't getting fuel. And I was trying to put myself in that position as to, through our experience, what was the highest mortality rate. And, of course, it's easy for me to say, oh, it sounds like a fuel pump. Because when an engine doesn't run, oh, it's not getting fuel. Well, that's not necessarily the case at all. Could be that the crank sensor, because that is a part of that engine, and all engines that tells the computer when the engine is cranking over and moving over, turning over. The starter does the job of spinning the starter, and then the computer relay sends power during the crank mode to the fuel pump. So you're getting, power to if you run a car out of fuel. Not yours is not, both not. But if you ran a car out of fuel, Ed, and you turn the key on electronic fuel injection during the cranking, that part, the computer sends power to the fuel pump. But what you did do, in essence, by cranking it twice, a couple times there, and then the third was a charm, you did re-energize the fuel pump. So while I don't necessarily believe that it's a fuel pump issue, you definitely, when you turn a vehicle off, and as it is with any motor, just like when we get out of bed, it's that initial get up and going, and that's where a fuel pump would fail. Rarely have I seen a car drive down the road. In fact, I can't remember. I'm sure it's happened. But rarely have I heard of people that they were driving their car down the road and the fuel pump went out, because once the fuel pump is running, it tends to stay running, just by the laws of inertia.
Right.
But when it stops, if it has like the contacts on the commutator and the brushes, then to get it started, to get it up and running, a lot of times, even a door lock, Lincoln's, by the way, reminded me of that, a door lock actuator wouldn't work. And I had people that would come through that were transient, when I was a service manager at a Lincoln Mercury in another life. And I would have people come through when their window was down and stuck down. They said, man, if you can just get this up for me, I won't put it down again. And they were traveling, and I would crank the car up, open the door, and just ball up my fist and whack the door, and trying the window lift, and sure enough, the window would raise up, and people thought I was brilliant, but I did. But it wasn't. It was just a way. At that time, Ford Motor Company had a lot of poorly made window motors, and so I think that for you, ultimately, you're probably going to find a crank sensor. Or a fuel pump, that one of those two would cause total failure to run, whereas I can't think of much else that would stop the car from running. You know what I'm saying? So, and
sure, I do, and I think that's actually the original fuel pump. I don't think it's ever been changed.
Well, you certainly couldn't go wrong from a financial standpoint. Would drop in and make sure, by the way, when you take it in for a fuel pump, and they can run tests on a pump. Probably that pump is going to fail. Probably that pump would pass a test because it's in the run mode today, you know. But make sure that if you do and when you take the car in, if it should fail again with you. And by the way, here's something, just a tip before I let you go. When you put the key in the car, you know, you get in the car first time, you put the key in the car, or you stopped and had a bio break and come back out. When you first go to crank a car, don't start it. Put the key in the run mode, you know, make the dash lights come on. Let's just say you were going to test the dash lights. So off to run, but don't go to the crank mode, you know, that spring-loaded tension. Don't do that. But do go to the run position. Then turn it off. Turn the key off again and go to the run position, because every time you cycle the key from off to run, even before you go to crank, there's a momentary 3/4 of a second of activation of the fuel pump. So what you're doing is you're kicking that fuel pump in the rear. Come on, let's bump. And all cars, almost all cars, are made that way, so that in the morning, because fuel pressure is residual pressure is there for all cars, or else they wouldn't jump to life. You know, you'd have to build the pressure first. And you know, we expect our cars to turn over 3 times and fire. So you can't wait for the pressure to build. So cars are made so that when you go from off to run, even though you're going to crank, you got to go through the run mode, right, to get there. The computer sends 3/4 of a second of voltage to the pump and activates it so that the pressure is restored. So if you'll cycle the next time it doesn't run, and it will happen again, go from off to run 4 times. Off, run, and because every time you do, you're sending voltage to the pump, and that might tickle the pump just enough to get it running, and then try it. And so actually, I think that's what really happened when you went to off and crank, because you did that. You just didn't know that that's what was happening.
Right.
Try that, Ed, and let me know if that works for you.
Okay. Thanks, Bobby. That makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for your call. Have a great day. 300,000 miles. Congratulations. You obviously are doing something right. Let's go from Nebraska to Texas and talk with Maury. Maury, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My question is, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One is on that Behrman's Chem Tool on the 2014 Ford F-150.
Right.
5.0 liter engine.
Right.
Would that Chem Tool hurt that motor in any way?
Chem Tool won't hurt any motor in any way, but you have to understand that that's a direct injection vehicle. So when we use the Behrman B12 Chem Tool or any of the Behrman products, that there's a wet system and a dry system. When you add fuel cleaner to the wet system, to the fuel tank, you're delivering that fuel upstream, and that solvent that's in Behrman B12 to the cylinder. But that does not mean that it would clean the intake valve, because you have direct injection. And so there are other chemicals that Behrman produces that can be used to clean the port. And to that end, Maury, I think it's most telling because in 2017, the EcoBoost Ford Motor Company came back with 2 sets of injectors. They went, and earlier, like yours, to direct injection. And then all of a sudden in 17, they said, oh, we're going to go back, not backwards to the port, we're going to add the port injection. Well, you and I both know that a manufacturer is not going to put 2 sets of injectors on a vehicle unless there's a challenge or some issue. So the newer EcoBoost engine has both port and direct injection. So a Behrman B12 Chem Tool would be a fabulous 5,000 mile add-in as just a matter of maintenance. But anyway, any more questions about that product?
No. I'm going on a long road trip here in just a couple of weeks. I wanted to see if I could use it on that road trip.
I would not use it on
1,300 miles.
I'm glad you called me. That is not the place to use a chemical cleaner on a road trip. And here's why.
Okay.
A chemical cleaner, we use chemicals to dissolve the coke buildup and carbon, both on top of the piston and intake valves. That's a given, right? So, so if it and that buildup is layered. It has a little carbon buildup at 5,000, a little more at 10, a little more, and it keeps building because every time you turn the car off, there's a certain amount of unburned fuel and chemicals within the fuel and oil from the intake valve that all engines weep and seep onto the back of the valve. So they build layers. So if you made a chemical strong enough to dissolve all of that during one trip on the road, well, when I come back, I'll share the rest. Mara, you stay there. Jerry and Frank, you stay there. And folks, this is important for you to understand. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine sensors. Today's vehicles are being pushed to new heights with increased fuel economy and fewer tailpipe emissions, which has created the need for a smarter and more sophisticated exhaust after-treatment system, featuring an array of sensors designed to help monitor and control the different aspects of vehicle operation and health. The EGT, or exhaust gas temperature sensor, plays a major role in multiple processes, and it's critical that the EGT is performing within their limits. But not all EGT sensors are created equal. Housing styles and materials vary, in addition to resistance types and temperature ratings. It's imperative that a consumer replace their EGT sensor with a correct OEM factory-style sensor. Walker Products has been supplying the automotive aftermarket since 1946 and manufactures all of its EGTs using only OEM-based sensors. Need a new sensor? Walker Products offers OE quality at aftermarket prices. Drive to walkerproducts.com. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovative products for the automotive aftermarket, like Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator, which cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system of all gas-powered vehicles, including those exceeding 60,000 miles. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop engine oil leaks. It also helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
Yeah, you sure ask a lot of questions.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back, folks. We're talking with Maury in Texas. And Maury, so you were contemplating adding a Berryman B12 Chem Tool to your vehicle on a road trip so as to kind of blow it out and clean it out. That's your thought, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You actually, that's wrong. You actually should add any chemical cleaner in a tank of fuel that you're going to drive in multiple stop and start and overnight stands to maximize the real solvent cleaning efforts of the solvent. And here's why. There are layers of coke and layers of carbon. You add the chemical and then you drive the vehicle so it floats and coats the carbon and it melts the top layer. And then you park the car at night. Overnight, that softens the surface of the layer, just like paint remover. You know, you wouldn't put paint remover on a house and spray it on and then wipe it off. You'd let it sit for a while, let it etch and get time and have time to really do its job, right? So,
right.
So every time you start a cold engine that has had the Berryman B12 Chem Tool added to the fuel in the morning, the next morning, another layer of carbon is removed, another layer of waste of those hard, brittle contaminants. And this is especially true because I specifically spent more than an hour last night cleaning the layers of grime, not grime, but of soap off of shower glass doors. And so, you know, nothing that you could use that you could put on and wipe off, because if you did, it would be so strong it would destroy other parts. Well, in an automobile, there's rubber hoses, there are injectors, there's wiring, all that is sort of exposed to the liquid. So there's a limit to how much strength any manufacturer can apply. So I said all that to say that multiple days of start-stop, let it sit overnight, crank it up, use it and drive it, start-stop, let it sit overnight, will dissolve over time through one tank of fuel over, say, it took you 10 days to use one tank of fuel. So a fuel injector cleaner, whether it's Berryman B12 Chem Tool or not, should never be added to a highway trip. And yet that's just the opposite of what people think. And you know, now, what's the advantage of a highway trip on engines? The advantage of a highway trip is you maintain engine operating temperature over a longer period of time, which allows the condensation and other contaminants to boil out of the oil, because the engine has reached its operating 220 degrees, 210 degrees, and the oil has reached its 230 degrees temperature and maintained for a long time. And that does a fantastic cleaning out, if you will, of contaminants. And to that end, Maury and Jerry and Frank, I'm coming to you, but this is important. To that end, I can't tell you, and how many of you have had a vehicle where you put 2,500 miles on it, and you're going to take a trip this weekend, and you check the oil, and it's not even a half quart low. It's not totally full, but it's not even a half a quart low. You drive it, say 350 miles or 400, and then you check it to come back, and it's a quart and a half low. And you say, this engine's never used oil. I had 3,000 miles on this oil and only was less than a half a quart down, and now I drove it 500 miles and used a quart of oil. It really did not. And this was especially true in older engines and newer engines as well. But when the oil was used locally during local driving, condensation took its place. So when you drove that vehicle for an extended period of time at an operating temperature, it boiled out the water and the condensation. So now what you got is the oil left. So what you were checked before you left was a combination of water and oil. So that's why road trips are good for engines, because the operating temperature is sustained over a longer period of time, giving the engine time to expel and or boil out a lot of the toxins. So that's really that's how you should use the Berryman product. And you had another question about a gear issue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Well, the other question was on the transmission. Seems like when the motor and transmission are cold in the morning,
right,
I'm first getting on the highway,
right,
seems like it slips in the first gear. The tachometer runs up a little bit and goes back down to regular speed. And I didn't know if that was a hiccup in the manufacturer or if that was a bug in the system that need to be repaired or what?
Well, I too notice a difference in the way my transmission shifts in cold weather, although we don't really have severe cold weather here in Florida. But we're in northwest Florida, so we do have some 30-degree days. and I've had those, and I do notice that the transmission shifting totally different. The timing is a little different, and the firmness is a little different, and that has to do with the viscosity of the transmission fluid. I think if you have 30,000 to 40,000 miles on your F-150, you should service the automatic transmission, even though Ford Motor Company saw fit to say, oh, this fluid's good for 150,000 miles, realizing that they only guarantee the transmission for 50,000. So, it's like,
right.
So you know the drill there. I mean, that's it's marketing and sales and yada yada is what it is. But being in the repair business, I can tell you, sooner or later, you leave fluid in there long enough, it will thicken and oxidize and turn into something that's really bad stuff. So I would suggest that you service the transmission, not pull the pan, but take it to a shop that uses a machine that extracts the old and replaces it. And then I would recommend synthetic transmission fluid or whatever Ford recommends, or equal to or better than Ford is what I'd recommend. You got it?
Okay.
All right, my
Yes,
friend.
sir.
Hey, nice talking with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's take another call from Texas. Jerry, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate your work that you do. Bobby, I have an 03 GMC Safari.
Okay.
It's a great vehicle. They don't manufacture that line anymore.
That's
If
the
they did, I'd
van.
buy a newer
The
one.
Safari's like the van, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, we've
Minivan.
had we've had minivan. Yeah, we have one specific customer that we've had in here. We had an oil leak that was a monster, and anyway, I won't go through that. But those are great vans, but the oil pan on a V6 engine leaves a lot to be desired. The way they designed that timing cover, and ultimately there's a new timing cover out for it. But anyway, how can I help you with yours?
Well, I have two problems, and one of them is that I have an oil leak. I've been told it's the front seal.
Yeah,
it's extremely slow.
Yes.
I drive to the office. I park for 4 hours. I go to lunch. I come back. I park for another 4 hours. Never a drop of oil on the ground there.
Got it.
But overnight in the garage, I'll get it's very slow, but I'll get a leak or a drop or two.
Right.
So I've just been babying it, and I was wondering if there's any kind of a sealant that might help me there.
No, Jerry, because they changed the design of the timing cover on that engine, and I will tell you just a short story. Whoever repairs or replaces the timing cover of that engine and the oil pan gasket, which you'll have to do both to correct that leak, you need to make sure that person has had prior experience with your specific automobile. So, and I guess that leads toward a dealer. So I might go to the Chevy dealer there in Texas, and I would talk to the person who is going to replace the timing cover seal. Number one, it's an expensive job. Number two, the timing cover is plastic. It doesn't have, it's not properly designed. It has, I can't explain it over the air, and I won't take the time because there are other callers, and it's something I can't put into words, except that the design of that front timing cover and oil pan leaves a gap on the longitudinal, the fore and aft side. So, no, in other words, if you got a front timing cover, you put it on the front of the engine, there's a seal that goes around it. Well, there's a rubber seal that's made into the timing cover, so it goes in dry. And then you got the oil pan, and it goes onto the back, to the bottom of the timing cover. But where the two meet, right in the, say, the corner of the mouth there, there's no appropriate design for seal. And I don't know how the factory did that, except they must have used a lot of RTV sealer, but I can tell you, whoever fixes the oil leak on that vehicle, when and if you get it fixed, better have already been to school on it, because we just did the same job 3 times over a period of the last year, and the customer paid one time, and we paid the other 2. And so I just would implore you to make sure that on that specific engine. And what was your second question?
I have a shake, a shimmy. And I've had it there for 2 or 3 years. and I had it to. I've replaced the injectors. I had the dealer check it over. He said, no, the engine runs fine. There's no miss in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they told me two things. One, it could be motor mounts. So I had the motor mounts replaced, and that didn't change anything. And then, and that was about a year ago.
Right.
And they said, well, it's in the transmission. You got to rebuild the transmission, and that's an expense too. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, well, you might get another 3 or 6 months out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been over a year, and it's been over 10,000 miles. It's noticeable when your foot's on the brake at a stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
It's faint when it's in neutral or in drive, but just faint.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering. I read recently that there are some motor mounts that were manufactured in China and they're not as effective. And what's your thoughts? Should I replace motor mounts again because it's reasonable in cost?
Well, I would get a second opinion. I would have a technician sit in the car with me, and also here's something you could do, Jerry. Let's say you got the car idling and you put it in gear, and this is what you're talking about, and you feel that little nervousness, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
do a stall test. A stall test is where you put your left foot on the brake and lock the car down, and then you accelerate with the right foot. But don't really, a quarter of an inch or 1 inch of throttle for like 3 seconds. And what that does, it tries to pull that motor out of the frame. It tries to, drive off. It's called stall test. Then try that same test in reverse. Well, gosh. Stay right there. When I come back, I'll take 30 seconds to tell you the rest of that test. Talking tunes? No, not the ones on your radio. The ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on some of the additional products Diablo Sport has to offer.
In addition to the Diablo Sport lineup of tuners, Diablo Sport also offers Jammer cold air intake systems and Hooker Blackheart exhaust kits. These kits work in concert with the Predator 2, Intune i3, and Trinity 2 programmers to deliver increased fuel economy, mileage, and overall performance for your gas truck or SUV.
Folks, Diablo Sports performance products make the perfect holiday gift, and now is a perfect time to buy with their Holidays savings. How cool is that? You get up to 20% off SRP on their extensive lineup of premium performance products. Learn more at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that, works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back. We're talking with Jerry in Texas. So, Jerry, to surmise and close my test procedure, what I want you to do, other than in addition to having a technician to sit in the car with you and ultimately talk to that technician about your actions with regard to the oil leak, the timing cover replacement, and the oil pan gasket replacement, you want to put the car in a drive and feel that nervousness. And so what you're feeling is sort of like if I'm rubbing my fingers on the microphone there, what you're feeling is that grittiness, which is normal in the race cars because there are no rubber isolators. And that's what engine mounts are. They're rubber isolators so that the operating machinery, which is the engine, which always vibrates, is isolated from the engine. Unfortunately, that rubber deteriorates and those motor mounts will break. And years ago, when they broke, the engine would come up out of its cradle and lock the throttle wide open. And in fact, so much so that in the earlier years, Chevrolet dealers used to add a chain and wrap a chain around the upper A-frame shaft and the left exhaust manifold to keep the engine from breaking the mount, and when it did finally break, locking the throttle wide open. That was a really poor design, but that was one of those, that's the way it was back then. Fast forward to today, and here's your test. You feel the grit in drive by holding your foot on the brake and giving it a little more gas with the accelerator, and you feel that grit. Now, put it in reverse. You can do this in your driveway or in the driveway of the dealership. Put it in reverse and give it the same little bit. What that's going to do is it's going to take the engine and cock the engine back the other way, because the pressure now is not on the driver's motor mount. The pressure is on the passenger's motor mount because the engine's trying to go the other way, trying to drive the car in reverse. And you want to do this so that you can feel the vibration or the grittiness of one versus the other. And if you can feel a distinct difference between forward stall test and backwards stall test, again, the car's not moving, then you can know that changing engine mounts will have an effect on the smoothness of the idle. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. In other words, when it goes to reverse, if the grittiness goes away, then it's a motor mount problem, right?
Well, it means that it should be no difference. If the motor mounts are soft and spongy and holding the engine in its proper location, you could actually open the hood and watch the engine move back and forth an inch and a half or two, but that's allowed as long as the engine doesn't go so far that it hits its steel lockdown, or maybe it's already there and you've got a grittiness and it feels, that hurts when you do that, and you do it the other way, it doesn't hurt, or it doesn't hurt audibly, if you know what I'm saying. So that's what I would do if I were you, because whatever you feel idling in gear, and this is provided the engine is healthy and you're just feeling normal engine vibrations through the mount, which they're saying. So those are the two. That's the easiest way for you, without being having experience, to determine if the mounts in the car are not doing their job. And then when you do get new mounts, put new mounts in, and make sure that you don't make sure that you use the transmission mount, because it could cause the same issue, but that's another conversation. You got it?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. I'm glad you called. I'll take a call from Frank in New York. Frank, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm terrific. How about yourself, man?
All right. I got a 99 Ford Taurus I talked to you about a week ago.
Okay.
All right. I went out and got that K sealer.
Okay.
And I put it in antifreeze.
Yes, sir.
It goes into that unit. Now I ain't got no heat.
Well, let me ask you a question. What was wrong with the engine that you added that we determined you were going to add the K-Seal to the cooling system?
It had an antifreeze smell.
Is the smell there?
No, it smells gone now.
Ah.
But now I ain't got no heat.
Well, that tells me that the smell that you were smelling, I mean, that doesn't tell me. It implies that the heater core was leaking. And there's a, and so ultimately, if the heater core was leaking and we stopped the leak in the heater core, and now you have no heat in the car, then that tells me that there's maybe the heater control valve, which could cause that same problem, is stopped up, or maybe the inside interior of the core was so deteriorated that there were multiple leaks, and it's restricted the flow. It sounds like that the addition of K-Seal has done its job, but also it sounds like that in doing its job, it could have caused the car to stop heating. I find that unusual, but I don't find that totally out of the realm. The first thing for you to do is to look at the flowing in hose and the out hose of the heater core and see if the in hose is hot and the out is not hot. Then you'll know that it's not flowing, and then check the heater control valve. I'm not sure that you're qualified to check the valve, but there's a controller that controls the flow of coolant through the heater core on all cars. And so if that valve were to be bad or have a vacuum leak from the engine or for whatever reason, I don't know, but the next step for you is to check the heater core. It wouldn't surprise me that ultimately that you may have had and still have a defective heater core. And if that's the case, you're going to have to replace it.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, well, here's what to do. Take it to a service shop and say, I don't have, and you can tell them you added K-Seal, that's fine. K-Seal is ceramic and it's approved. It won't cause problems. And actually it solves problems. But in this case, take it to a certified technician and say, would you check the coolant flow through my heater core? Because Frank, you and I both know if you got hot water flowing through or hot coolant flowing through the heater core and air blowing over the core, you're going to get heat. Yeah. So if you haven't and you're not getting heat, then by all means, check to see if the core is not defective. You got it?
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, let me know, my friend. I'm right here every Saturday.
All right, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for your call. Let's go from New York to Nebraska. Nebraska has really been active today. Ron, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hello, Bobby.
Hey, sir.
Yeah, say, this is Ron from Kearney. We enjoy your show out here, and I'm just looking at preventive maintenance, you might say, for my 2000 Ford Ranger pickup, a battery issue.
Okay.
It's getting near the end of its life, and I heard an ad on your show from Johnson Controls about I believe, an AGM battery versus a flooded battery.
Yes.
I drive 1 mile to work, 1 mile back home weekly, every day. So I'm just wondering, is this a good battery choice?
It's an excellent battery choice. I'm with you. I drive 3.9 miles one way to and from the studio, and rarely does my engine get up to operating, well, it gets up to operating temperature, but the oil doesn't, and all the rest of the lifebloods do not as well. So I'm always of a concern that I'm doing this short distance driving, which I know is harmful to the car. But if you'll think about, and the exec at Johnson Controls actually said it better than I, an AGM battery will operate under fewer charging, less charging, fewer miles charged at a better capacity than a standard flooded battery. So I know that to be true. So as an upgrade for your vehicle, by all means, you can replace the flooded battery, which you have, with an AGM, and then you're going to have better use, longer use, a better results, and in those cold days there in Kearney, you're going to get up and go. You can. Do you know the website? Are you familiar with the website for more information?
What would that website be? Because we can punch it in.
Okay, autobatteries.com. autobatteries.com, and you can find more information which you'll need to, and I just appreciate and love it that you called, and then you'll also find a location of a dealer that sells AGM batteries, and a good, and I'll tell you, I don't know if you're in the farm, of course a lot of people there in Kearney are. AGM batteries should be a no-brainer install on farm equipment. because you're out in the field. You don't have jumper cables in another car. Hey, John, I'm down on the West 40 here.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I know you have. Yeah. Well, I'm going to come back to Kearney one of these days, and I tell you folks are terrific, and I really enjoy getting calls from there, and I sure thank you for your call, Ron.
Well, and we thank you, me and my wife both.
Well, thanks again, my friend. We'll talk again. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.
Folks, I mentioned, and I'm going to go, I got 2 more calls. I'm going to take them, but here quickly, there's no need to warm up a modern vehicle in cold weather. And this is the biggest, no-brainer, but yet we all have that feel when it's time, many of you, this time of year, wonder if you need to let your vehicle warm up or idle before driving. Well, the truth is that today's modern cars are ready to drive in cold temperature without excessive idling. And this is according to our partners at the Car Care Council. The idea of idling before driving dates way back to when cars were built with carburetors. With new fuel injection technology, folks, and the complex computer systems that we talk about, and the thinner synthetic oils, you don't need to warm up your car before you hit the road. And according to the EPA, when a car idles for more than 30 seconds, it has several negative effects, such as increasing air pollution unnecessarily, wasting fuel and money, and causing excessive wear or even damage on the car's engine components, including the cylinders, spark plugs, and the exhaust system. The best way to warm up your car's engine is to drive gently at the start. Remember, a vehicle gets 0 miles per gallon when idling, and the result is lower fuel economy and wasted money. For more information, go to carcare.org. Again, no need to warm your engine up as we did years and years ago. Fire the car, let it stabilize, back out of the driveway, and drive off moderately. Take a call from Terry Sabiston. Terry, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing today?
I'm terrific. I'm short on time, but what a pleasure it is to have such an unexpected call. What's up?
We are at Daytona National Speedway for ARCA testing going on right now. Been an exciting day here. Natalie Decker in the Crosley Toyota over 181 miles an hour. So we got a lady showing these guys how to do it out here at Daytona National Speedway.
You gotta love
this is the second day of testing.
You gotta love that. I mean, it's about time. It's about time that a woman showed those guys how to drive.
Natalie Decker is an up and coming young lady, and I think you're going to see a lot of her. She's going to be racing ARCA, and I also believe she's racing a truck series, and then she's also eligible for the W series. I don't know if you know anything about that, but check it out. It's an all-women series that they're putting together. So it's an exciting day here. We've seen some great speeds, drafting practice going on. I'm out here to learn the cars and the names. I got to call this race on the radio here in about a month, and so I'm out here learning what colors the cars are, what drivers are in them, so I can be prepared for calling this race here in about 30 days.
Well, you know what, and I feel your pain there, or that's a challenge, because you have to know that one going around is in front of the other one, is Jane is ahead of Mary, and so on and so forth. But I have no doubt that you will absolutely do a terrific job there, as you have for so many years at WNDB there in Daytona. Hey, man, thank you for the update. It's the ARCA weekend in Daytona at the Daytona International Speedway, correct?
Shirt sleeve weather, ARCA testing, doesn't get any better than this. We'll take a deep breath the next weekend, and then we've got the Rolex 24 the weekend after that, Bobby.
I want you to come back and tell us all about that. The Rolex 24, folks, we won't go there right now, but I can tell you that is way over the top racing. Terry, thanks so much for your call and for a quick report from Daytona. What did he do? We lost him? Was that him? Was that his phone? No, I hope he's okay. Okay. Victor in Washington.
Yeah.
Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing?
Oh, real good. How are you doing? You're doing good, you said. All righty.
Yeah.
And is the spark plug, the sparking of the spark plug, a limiting factor on getting even more economy on these newer motors because of the higher compression and leaner mixtures?
Well, it has been for years. Yeah, that always is, the spark. It's hard to build a fire in a dry environment, and to that end, I could and I have done this, I can stand in a dry environment on rubber soles and put my fingers in a 110-volt power socket and feel a tinge, but would not shock me. But if I were standing in water, well, you know what would happen. It would knock me on my, you know what. So in a cylinder, the spark plug does one job. It creates heat and starts the fire. Well, if the fire in the combustion chamber is lean and doesn't have a lot of wetness or fuel, then it's going to misfire. And that was a serious problem early on with emissions, because when you had a carburetor, you leaned out the engine to make it run leaner and cleaner emissions. One of the cylinders would be short-served and it wouldn't get enough fuel to fire, and it would cause misfire. And that's one of the reasons why we all went to electronic fuel injection, because that's specific injecting of fuel to each individual cylinder in equal amounts. You got it?
Yeah.
So
if you could get a spark under the higher compression and leaner mixtures, how much more would that? You could go on further and get
absolutely. Absolutely. That's where in fuel injection. Hey, Victor and Joe, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get you any further. We're out of time. Next week, call earlier. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
At O'Reilly Auto Parts, we promise you'll get better parts, better prices every day. Our stores are stocked with high-quality parts and accessories at guaranteed low prices, and our friendly, well-trained professionals are standing by to help. So stop in and see how 5 simple words drive everything we do. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle Loden or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. You're